So I gave you an opportunity to see if you sort of understood the idea of conditionals and how the conditionals get put together to try to fix a small issue or two with our Mary Had a Little Lamb story, right? The idea is we wanted to make sure that no matter which of the three animals they chose, cat, lamb, or dog, that we added the right things here. And so I think I fixed those. Let's test it. What's your name? Alex. Which pet do you have? Let's do lamb. Let's make sure that all three work. And that's one of the things you always want to do is when you're adding in options, check all of them. So we have Alex had a little lamb. Hi, I'm the lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Good, a lamb should be fleece. So we're seeing fleece, we're seeing lamb. We're seeing the lamb sprite. That looks good. We always had the word lamb and fleece, and we always had the lamb sprite. That's good. Let's run it again. Let's try it with a different thing now. Let's try Ben and dog to make sure that that works. Ben. And this is a good opportunity for me really to remind you about testing, right? When you start to make these things where there are options, you want to actually check all of the different things and make sure it's working. So here's Ben. I'm the dog. The coat was white as snow. We wanted coat for the dog. It says coat from Mother Goose and coat from the dog sprite. Everywhere that Ben went, the dog was sure to go. That's good. Let's try one more time here and let's try the cat. So we'll try Carolyn and cat. And then I should show you the solution for all of this. So let's see here. Carolyn had a little cat. Good, we're getting the cat sprite. We're saying cat, we're saying cat. Its fur was white as snow. Okay, the cat's still kind of orange. We might want to fix that sprite in a little bit, but that's good. Okay, everything's looking right. We're getting cat, we're getting fur, we're getting all of that right. And the way that I did this in mine was to add into my story, again, this idea that, so-and-so has a little pet. If the pet is lamb, say its fleece was white as snow. If the pet is a dog, say its coat was white as snow. Else, just assume they said cat and say fur. And again, we have a problem if they say fish, we're still going to get cat and fur. But error issues are complicated, and so I'm going to avoid them right now. We're just going to assume that they did say lamb, dog, or cat, and we're only going to say one of those things. And so we have that over there. We have that here. Do you like my fleece, coat, fur? Right? We have that over here. Fleece, coat, fur. I fixed the pet, so the pet was sure to go. The sprite over here says, hi, I'm the pet. And so it mostly works right now, except if you were really paying attention carefully, you'd notice I have one last problem in mine, and you may have missed this in yours or not thought about it. And so let's do Amy, and let's do the dog. And so we say, Amy had a little dog. Its coat was white as snow. Do you like my coat? We're almost there to where I wanted you to point at what I wanted to point out to you. She says everywhere that Amy went, the dog was sure to go. And then Mary or Amy says, hey, lammy pie. It always says, hey, lammy pie in mine. I didn't fix that, right? And I want to fix that. And so in order to fix this, I now have to do this whole nested thing once again. I have to say, if that started to bother you the number of times you were copying and pasting this or rebuilding this whole thing, right? I mean, if you looked at this lamb, we said, if pet is lamb, do you like my fleece? If pet is dog, do you like my coat? Mother Goose says the same thing. You know, at some point you start to say, wouldn't there be an easier way to do this? And let me show you something that I don't think you necessarily would have thought of, and I wouldn't expect you or your students to think of this right away. But I want to show it to you, and I want to give you that tool to start thinking about this. Right now, when we first get into this, we say, when I receive this tell story, if I'm the pet, turn to lamb, dog, cat. And the issue is, rather than asking this over and over again, maybe what we can do is to ask it only once, but do a little more configuration. So for example, if I detect that it was the pet was the lamb, I want to switch to the lamb costume, but I also want to later be able to talk about fleece, and I want to be able to call lammy pie. If it was the dog, I want to talk about coat, and I might want to say doggy poo. And if it was cat, I might want to switch to fur and say, kitty baby or something like that, right? What gets called out might change, and I might want to just do that all at once. And we can actually use variables to help us with this. So I'm going to make a variable called, I don't know, I'll call it skin, which might be, it's a strange thing, but is it, what is it? Is it fur? Is it fleece or whatever? And so the idea here is that if somebody says lamb, then I want to set skin to fleece. But if somebody says dog, I want to set skin to coat. Coat. And if they said cat, I want to set skin to fur, right? And the advantage of this now is that I can sort of ignore saying this whole thing over and over again. Instead of saying, do you like my fleece? Do you like my coat? Do you like my fur? Instead, because I set a variable to have that idea of what skin do they have, I can instead replace this with, do you like my space? And I can come to variable, and I can put skin in here. And now I don't have to ask this whole set of complicated if and else statements. I can say, do you like my skin? And it just is updated because I updated the skin variable up here. Furthermore, I can go to Mother Goose and I can do the same thing. I don't need to have this big long statement again. I can just say, we'll get a couple of join blocks out here. So I'm going to say it's space. Oops, I'm dragging. There we go. It's whatever that was. Space was white as snow. And so I don't have to have all those complicated if conditions. I only really have to ask whether they said skin once or twice. And that not only makes sense here with the skin, but it also now helps me with not having to repeat it over here with lammy pie. Instead of saying lammy pie, maybe what I want to do is to make a variable called nickname. And I'll turn that off. And I just want to have Mary or Amy or whoever call out that nickname. And so now I can go back to where we looked at, did they say lamb, dog, or coat? And I can say, and I'm going to show you a little trick here. If I change this from set my variable to set nickname, now when I drag it out, it says set nickname, and I don't have to keep changing it over and over again. I can add this set nickname block multiple times. And so if it was lamb, we want to set it to lammy pie. If it was the dog, we want to set it to Poochie Poo. Oops. Wow, I can't type today. And if it was the cat, I want to set it to Kitty Dear. Okay? And so now I've got that nickname already set. I only really have to ask that big set of conditionals once. And now it should run no matter what. Let's try it with the dog. I'm not going to do a full test on video with you. You can look at this. So I'm going to set it that James has a dog, and now let's see if it works. James had a little dog. Hi, I'm the dog. Its coat, that's right, its coat was white as snow. And everywhere that James went, the dog was sure to go, and let's see what James calls out. Poochie Poo, perfect. Right? And so my point with this extra little tidbit is that we can use conditionals, we can use variables to help us configure the story very, very quickly and easily so that we can really come up with some nifty customizations. Okay? That's pretty much it for this unit. In the next video, we'll explain what I'd like you to do for your actual homework assignment.